Welcome to the second week of a message series called All Out. We introduced this series last week by talking about some of the history of our church, including the history of our name. Our name, New Roads, comes from an interview Pope Francis did shortly after he was elected Pope about 10 years ago. From the very beginning, Pope Francis has been committed to renewal of the church. And here's one way he spoke about it. Instead of being just a church that welcomes and receives by keeping the doors open, let us try also to be a church that finds new roads, that is able to step outside itself and go to those who do not attend Mass, to those who have quit or are indifferent. The ones who quit sometimes do it for reasons that, if properly understood and assessed, can lead to a return. But that takes audacity and courage. For the last 10 years, this is the kind of church we have been striving to become, a church that is welcoming and open, bold and different, a church that is oriented not inward toward ourselves, but outward toward the world and the people around us. We've made so much progress. And at the same time, I think we've just begun. We've become outward oriented, but mostly on the inside. The call of Jesus to go out is much bigger than that. Going out is about serving and loving people and making the world a better place. Not inside our church, but outside, in our everyday lives, and in the wider community and communities that we're a part of, regardless of whether they ever join our church or not. Last week, as we kicked off this series, we said that Jesus empowers and entrusts us and sends us out to bring hope and healing to the people, neighborhoods, and the world around us. We hear this call to be sent out again in today's gospel when Jesus says, "As the Father has sent me, so I send you." It's appropriate to consider this today as we celebrate Pentecost. Pentecost celebrates the gift of the Holy Spirit. It's sometimes called the birthday of the church because it's when the community begins to take on the responsibility, to take over the responsibility for the mission of Jesus. The church is born as the Holy Spirit descends upon the community, and Jesus sends his disciples and us out on mission. I think it's important to ask what the word church really means. So easy to get confused about this. And here's the problem. We think of the church primarily as a building, or maybe we think of the church as an organization or an institution. But the original Greek word, ekklesia, which we translate church, is not about a building, an organization, or an institution, or even a worship service. The original idea of church is a movement of people called for a mission, a purpose. The church is the people of God, a gathering of believers who are called and expected to go out. The church is not primarily about what happens inside the building. What happens inside empowers us to become the church. We become the church and we are sent out into the world. To give us a better understanding of this, I think it helps to look at the early church. We all know the experience of the 21st century church. In many ways, our experience is limited to going to a church building on Sundays, and that's kind of it. But that's not at all what the church started as, and it's not at all what the church is meant to be. We need to understand this first from a historical perspective. Listen to this quote taken from a New Testament scholar named Bart Ehrman. In his book, The Triumph of Christianity, he writes, "Christianity not only took over an empire," he's referring to the Roman Empire, "it radically altered the lives of those living in it. It was a revolution that affected